Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Fusion Reaction. It's February 8th, 2020. I'm Eugene, and this is the show that fits in all the odds and ends that don't fit in the Fusion Patrol podcast, which we normally call Fusion Patrol instead of Fusion Patrol, but blah, blah, blah. I admit I'm a little tongue-tied today. This is the second episode. First episode aired last week, and I will admit fully and freely that I didn't tell anybody about it in advance because I was terrified to tell anybody about it in advance. But this week I'm a little more confident. We're still playing with the equipment, trying to figure out what's going on. And I see I've got one person watching. That's already terrifying. Hello, one person. So today, we're just gonna try running through a few things and see how it goes and tweak the format as time goes on. So I'm gonna start today. I have a list of things on my agenda item thing over here. That's much better. There we go. I'm going to be running through the Fusion Patrol spoilers policy, which is not nearly as interesting as it sounds. Or perhaps it is, I don't know. But for people who don't know how we try to treat spoilers, and hi, arm tube you. I could drag that up on the screen if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. Or maybe I already did automatically. I'm not sure. So we're going to be looking at our spoilers policy. We're going to be looking at Star Trek Picard, a brief look. Spoiler free, and news that matters to me, which is a thing I added at the last minute because there was some news that mattered to me. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Sea Devils and some rumors going around and some ideas that have been kicking through my head. So practicing, learning how to use it. I'm going to play in a video that I shot a little bit earlier on the spoilers policy so that I can relax from my nerves here for a moment. So Fusion Patrol spoilers policy. I'll be back live, but I am monitoring the chat during the course of it. The Fusion Patrol spoiler policy. An exciting new video. So I wanted to have a little talk about spoilers because as we go on through having more projects in addition to just the main podcast range, there is the opportunity for there to be spoilers. And so I want to kind of get you in my mindset, and I will try to give you my guarantee isn't quite the right word because we're human and we don't always make these things fly, but where my mindset is with regards to spoilers and how I will try to play fair with you with regards to spoilers. Okay? So, as I think I've mentioned before, there is the tyranny of the bell curve where we all fall somewhere along this bell curve. And over here, there is, I don't care about spoilers, just whatever. And over here, there is, the title of the movie Planet of the Apes gives too much away. Now, and I'm going to use Planet of the Apes for a couple of different examples here. And I'm talking about the 1960s Planet of the Apes movie, just FYI. For starters, when it comes to our episodes, we are going to continue to operate on the principle that if we are doing a podcast on an episode of a TV series, our most recent one was on Praxeus on Doctor Who. If you're listening to the podcast, we are going to assume that you either have watched the episode or that you don't care. And that is why we include the recap, because there are times when we do shows that maybe you can't get hold of, or maybe you haven't seen in 20 years, or whatever it happens to be. And so it's to kind of refresh what goes on in the story, but at the same time, it does acknowledge that there might be people who are not having seen it. But we are going to treat it as if you have. So That's one. That's the basic policy. We cannot do the discussion that we do without potentially spoilering every last detail of an episode that we analyze. That's one. The second thing is that we're going to include everything in that. So that means if there's a next time trailer, there's a next time trailer, and we could talk about that. And I will say that falls in with our second aspect, and that is that if the studio, the production company, the broadcaster uses something for promotional materials, then they have determined that that is not spoilery material. That is material designed to get you to watch the show. And so because we also want you to watch the show, that is fair game. And I know that doesn't make everyone happy, but we have to draw the line somewhere, and I think that's a fair line to draw. If they don't want to spoil something, they should definitely not include it in the trailers or the commercials or whatever it is that they're doing for the program. The third one is going to be that there is a spoil by date or a spoilers spoiled by date. So basically, spoilers can go bad. They can be spoiled, which is almost an incoherent sentence. But in other words, at some point, it's ridiculous. And yes, there are people who are born right now, who have just been born, who have never seen Planet of the Apes, the 1960s version. But I'm sorry, that is so old that we're not going to. And it has entered into the popular culture. It has become part of the tapestry of who we are. And so it's the fact that the Planet of the Apes has the Statue of Liberty at the end, and turns out they're on Earth all along, is not only way past its spoil by date, but it has also worked its way into everything like Spaceballs and popular culture, and it's even now it's in the promotional material. In fact, let me show you something here. I have had this since about 1971, 2, something like that, and I probably had never even seen the film Planet of the Apes when I got this. So just hold on a second. This has traveled with me my entire life, basically. It's a garbage can. It is a well-used garbage can, Planet of the Apes. And this, when I was a kid, this was my go-to vomit bucket, but it's also garbage. I'm not going to tell you what's in here, but there's garbage in here, not vomit. And spoilers! Statue of Liberty! So, this one's gone. Sorry. If you didn't know about Statue of Liberty and the Earth, Planet of the Apes, I'm sorry. But, at some point, a show we're not going to waste our time trying to stop happening. And I recognize that also does not necessarily satisfy everybody. But we try to be cognizant of the fact of where something is on the sell by date. If it's a film no one has ever seen, if it's a month old, that's very much different. But 50 years, yeah, and popular. 50 years and popular. We're not going to go there. So I just wanted you to understand where we are. We absolutely appreciate that some people don't want to be spoiled, and we will try beyond those guidelines. We will always try to be conscientious, but we will not be able to guarantee that something that someone considers a spoiler might slip out. But we are aware of it, and we try to be considerate. Oh, sorry. My can. It's a real can. I really have had that my whole darn life. So that's it. Tried to make that as concise as possible. Obviously, it wasn't very. Next thing I wanted to talk about is Star Trek Picard. Again, and in the context of, hey, I'm not going to spoil this. I'm not going to be talking to you about Gus. I just want to talk to it in general terms. Star Trek, a lot of people are excited by the return of Star Trek's second best captain, Jean-Luc Picard. And even I am very much looking forward to the show. We're now 3 episodes into it, which coincidentally happens to be the same number of episodes that the advanced screeners got. And some of the comments that they had, I mirror. It feels like it's getting going, and by the time you're done with episode 3, you feel like it's about to start. And that's actually not a good thing, but I've been basically enjoying it so far. The one thing I am not crazy about is I am a very strong believer of the Star Trek ideal, that it is to present a future that is better, to show us what we can be, as opposed to as a society, as opposed to what we can be as an individual. And I have long thought that there is a deep set psyche in Americans and perhaps in Western Europeans of the rugged individualist. It may come from our old West, it may come from our frontier can-do propaganda machine, whatever it happens to be, but that's always been the hero bucking the trend. And in a way, Star Trek is sort of like not that. It's us working together well and doing things, and then going and seeing other people who are not doing things well and being smug about it. It's like, well, we used to be bad too. And that is the dream, to be something to strive for. Something we can achieve it. We can do it. It's there. But in recent years, the drama wants to come back to, you got to have man against the system, and it's clear that Patrick Stewart wants to tell a tale about America, perhaps Britain, but America, I would say certainly, post 9/11, and because of that, Starfleet must be the problem, and I don't like that. I have to say, I don't like it. I understand these are important messages to tell, and I'm hoping that as we get into the adventure part of it, perhaps things can be redeemed. But at the moment, I can feel his axe grinding, and maybe this isn't the right place for it. So, anyway, those are my first thoughts on Star Trek Picard. We're certainly not going to do episodes on it. There's too much Star Trek. We have talked a little bit about having Simon and I do Star Trek Discovery, because he's not a Star Trek fan. He's not watched Star Trek, and that might be an interesting place to come in, but that remains to be seen. So, news that is interesting to me. We're going to move on to that. And why? Because there's a ton of news, and I just look at it and I go, I should tell people about that. That's why it's news that's interesting to me. The sad news: Robert Conrad, star of Wild Wild West, is dead at age 84. I just got that news about an hour or two before we went live on the podcast. Wild Wild West I don't know how widespread that show has made it outside the United States. So forgive me if you either don't know what I'm talking about, or you're like, come on, we know what Wild Wild West is. It was steampunk before steampunk was a thing. It's a spy drama set in the Old West with fantastical gadgets and crazy futuristic past technology stuff. And I adore that show. It's one of my 5 favorite TV shows of all time. And those are the Wild Wild West, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Blake 7, and the Avengers. And I mean proper Avengers, not this Marvel nonsense. I'm talking about Steed and Mrs. Peel and Honor Blackman and Mrs. Kathy Gale. What trouble with that? Tara King, I can remember. Kathy Gale, I don't know why she's much better than Tara King, but anyway. These are my 5 favorite shows. And if you ask me the question tangentially, why they're all old and you don't have any new ones. What do you do if some new TV show comes along and wants to bump it off? And I'll answer that question. The answer is I just start telling people my 6 favorite TV shows are Wild Wild West, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Blake 7, The Avengers, and The Expanse. So that's the general idea. And I'm going to take a moment here to take a look at my comments, which I cannot read and and talk at the same time, nor chew bubblegum. Spoilers, yes. I will warn, however. We will try to warn in future when we are done at the end of a podcast talking about this week's episode. We will at least say, and what about that next time trailer or something of that mix. So if you just really don't want to know, then you can probably cut it off. But you might miss some exciting, nice to talk to you again, see you next time stuff. But we'll try to do that. We'll try to do that much for it. And finally, Sea Devils in the details. After we recorded our podcast on Praxeus Tuesday morning, my time, and Tuesday evening UK time, somewhere on the next day and down under. And at that point, I do not listen to any podcast, any reviews. I don't want to know what anybody else thought about an episode before I get in there and spout off my head about whatever I think. And I had not heard the rumors that this story had originally been about the Sea Devils. I was completely oblivious to that. But the second I heard the first podcast that said, oh, this is a rumor, and I think they went on to say something to the effect of, that makes no sense at all. I was like, no, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. And this is my question to you. I want you to think about what I'm about to say and tell me if this makes sense or crazy, or if you see any other patterns there, whatever it happens to be. Praxeus suffers from problems. It's the best I can say is it suffers from structural problems and logic problems all over the place. But it would make so much more sense if, let's say that there was a colony of sea devils living under the Indian Ocean gyre. The gyre being the circular thing in the center of the gyre. The garbage patch just works its way towards the center of the gyre. They wake up as sea devils and Silurians do. Oh my gosh, the alarm clock didn't ring. We better hop back up. Oh my goodness gracious, the whole planet's been taken over by these apes. We're going to have to wipe them out. And they've polluted the whole place too. So instead of some alien lab coming here, what do Silurians and Sea Devils do? Well, let's see. They release viruses or try to start wars to destroy mankind. Well, what if they created a virus to wipe out plastic and use it to kill humans? It's perfectly consistent with what they would do. And it also makes perfect sense that they would use birds as a carrier mechanism, because it makes no sense that the birds behave differently than the humans who are infected with this disease, unless you work on the assumption that birds are avian dinosaurs, and therefore probably the Silurians and the Sea Devils have a much better technique for controlling them and using them to spread this virus. And also, it makes sense that the submarine would have perhaps woken the Sea Devil base, and so they captured it and used them. The high tech from this Silurian base could have Sea Devil base, Silurian base, could have brought the space capsule down that was flying over. They would have established bases on land to conduct further experimentation on humans or wildlife. Oh, that makes so much more sense than having some random aliens searching through galaxies until they found a polluted planet and said, this is the guinea pigs for us. Because not only did they have to find a polluted planet, but they had to find a polluted planet that had life forms that were vaguely similar to them. And then it gives the message more moral authority. There used to be a commercial in the United States that would air just about first thing in the morning when TV would start, just before Hogan's Heroes. And it was a very stereotypical Native American man. It's a very famous commercial. And he was, rowing down in his canoe down the river, and then suddenly, there was a bit of garbage in the river, and then he would get on the land, and there would be a bit of garbage here and a bit of garbage there, and then he would cross over, and he would see all the pollution, and he would see all the filth and the rubbish everywhere, and there was just this little tear ran down his eyes because, the people, the primitive peoples saw, the people who'd been here before saw the folly of mankind. And I mean, that's exactly the message you can get from the Silurians, isn't it? I mean, it's much better than some aliens passing by and saying, look at the stupid people ruining our planet. The Silurians wake up and see their planet destroyed by these people. It gives it much more moral authority, and it makes their outrage and indignation and desire to wipe out mankind more logical. So I think it's got a heck of a lot of credibility to it. And now I'm seeing a ton of people talking about it. So I really feel bad we didn't get a chance to bring it up on the podcast, because I just had not heard of it. But gosh, I like the idea. I personally like the idea, and would have been great. Anyway, I think that's it. I thank you for watching. Those people who are watching, this is longer than I thought it was going to be. It'll be shorter. It'll also switch times so that, because this is a terrible time. This is a terrible time for the United States. I mean, it's 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, and it's about 6 a.m. in the UK. So our listeners are basically in the United States, the UK, and Australia, New Zealand. So English speaking, amazing that. So anyway, that is it for this time, and thank you, ArmTube U. ArmTube U. You're gonna have to tell me what that means. ArmTube U. Huh. All right. Oh, but Silurian thinking. Yes, costumes. Yes. I'm throwing that one up. Is that one on here? Do I have to put this on the screen somehow? I don't know. Yes, there it is. Ha! I can do that. Okay, so it was, forgive me, I'm learning the software. When your message came up earlier, it popped up on my screen and this screen. I've got two screens going, and I thought this one was on the screen, but it's not. But this one is on the screen. Yes, I've noticed that they're very poor this year. I think that their costumes, their budget must be seriously hurt. And yeah, they couldn't have done the Sea Devils. And if they'd reused the Silurian costumes, then what was the point of, they need to be turtles or something. Anyway, so yeah, I agree. They may have cut this simply because, we can't create new costumes. Because have we seen anything new, really, this year? I mean, it's people with green hair and humanoids and, yeah, nothing. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for watching, and probably next week I'm kind of shooting for weekly, and if there's anything to talk about. So until next time, thank you for joining us on Fusion Reaction.